welcome to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast, Achieving Peace Through Compassion. This podcast is a recording of the Dharma Talks given during our Sunday service.
I'm going to start by telling you a story, and I've told this story here before, so if you've heard it before, sorry, but you're going to hear it again. So, this is the story of a teacher named Zen Master Hakuin was his name, and he lived in the 1700s. So, I like to, sometimes when I talk about these historical things, I like to put it in context. So, we're going to say he lived at the same time as George Washington, right? So, that's the context. The 1700s in Japan. And this guy, Hakuin, he's a well-known and beloved Buddhist teacher in that time and place. People really like him. But he's a hermit. He lives by himself in a tiny house. We would call it a tiny house today. In a tiny house that's near a village. And people just come to see him. And they just come and they ask him questions, or mainly they come and ask him questions, or they say, I'm struggling with this part of my meditation practice. What should I do? Like that sort of thing. So people just come and visit him, and they give him offerings. And that's how he survives. They come visit him, give him offerings. He probably grows his own food too, but he doesn't have a lot of desires. So he's able to live that way. And this village that's nearby, they're proud of having this prominent teacher nearby. They're really proud of it. And so, but one day something bad happens. What happens is this. This young girl in the village gets pregnant, and it's a very poor family. And she doesn't want to tell her parents that the father of this child is another young person, a young boy from a family that's even more poor than they are. And she's embarrassed and ashamed of that. So she thinks the first person she thinks of is who she says is the father of the baby when her parents ask. And she says, it's that teacher Hakuin is the father of my baby. And so what is that? That's a terrible scandal, right? He is, in that time and place, Buddhist teachers were monks. So he was not even supposed to have that kind of engagement, but let alone with a young girl, wildly inappropriate. So this girl's parents, they start telling everybody, hey, Hakuin's a creep. You should stay away from him. He's not a good guy. And so his reputation, of course, is quite a bit harmed. And less people are coming to see him. And when this baby's born, the grandparents, they take the baby and they go to Hakuin's tiny house and they say, hey, you did this. You got our daughter pregnant. You have to take this baby and take care of it. We can't afford it. You have to take it. And Hakuin doesn't respond like a lot of us would, I think. That is, a lot of us, if we're put in that situation, we're going to respond like, no, I didn't. How dare, or even, how dare you? We could even get mad when we're accused, right? But he just says, is that so? And he receives that baby. He just receives the baby and let those people go. He doesn't even argue. He doesn't say it wasn't me. He doesn't do anything. You see, Hakuin was famous for this quality that we call equanimity. He was famous for that, and this story exemplifies that. Equanimity is this quality where we carry an even mind regardless of what life is throwing at us. That's aspirational. It's something we want to do. Maybe it's not something, I know it's something I fall short on. But that's this quality that he has. So they give him this baby. They force it upon him. And he just says, is that so? And he receives the baby. More happens, though. So he's able to borrow milk from his neighbors, and he is for the baby, obviously. And he's taking care of this baby. And luckily, he has spent his life training in generosity and compassion and patience. So maybe he's well equipped to take care of a baby. So that's good. So the baby's getting incredibly good care from him because his whole life is being a monk, and now his whole life is taking care of a baby. Okay. And a year goes by. And this girl, who is the mother of the baby, she feels really guilty eventually. I guess it took a year to feel bad, but she goes to her parents and she says, hey, I lied. I totally lied. Hakuin's not the father of that baby. It was that fisherman boy over there. I just was embarrassed. So then the baby's grandparents, wow, they feel really bad, right? They ruined this guy's reputation and they sent a child out of their family. So first they go around and they start telling everybody, hey, we were wrong. We were wrong about Hakuin. He's actually a good guy. And then they go to him and they say, hey, we're really sorry. We believed some bad information and we're going to just take the baby back. You don't have to have responsibility for this anymore. And they take the baby back. And Hakuin, he just says, is that so? Again. And he lets that baby go. And that's it. And like his reputation just grew and grew. And he's really beloved in Japan as a teacher. But the way the story gets told is that he was not attached to that baby and he was not bothered when they came and took it. And I don't think that's true. I think if you have a baby for a year, you bond with that baby. So I think that he was sad, but he handled it because he had equanimity. He handled it. And I can't imagine being faced with all that. And so that makes this story kind of aspirational, something we can think about when things are hard, you know. Times are tough. Nobody's accusing me and handing me a baby suddenly, right? So even though times are tough, I can kind of think about that and think, oh, well, Hakuin could handle that. And so that's great. So that is equanimity. Equanimity is what I'm talking about today, in case that's unclear. And I'm going to read to you a quote. It's from this book, Boundless Heart. In this book, she says, Christina Feldman's the author. And in this book, she says, and I quote, the path of equanimity asks us to question whether it is the events and changing conditions of our lives that shatter our hearts or our reactions to them, end quote. So the thing about life is things that aren't supposed to happen, happen, or things we think aren't supposed to happen. So in that story, that girl was not supposed to get pregnant, right? And in that story, Hakuin's reputation was not supposed to get ruined, of course. But we expect life to go a certain way, and things that aren't supposed to happen, they can happen to us. And the more I go through life, the more clear that is. And I see that there are kids in the room, but I bet they've already learned life's not always fair, right? And that's the way it is. Sometimes, you know, you think you're finally caught up on your bills and your check engine light comes on in your car, right? Or the girl you like doesn't like you, or things like that, you know. I lost my parents a little bit too young, and that wasn't supposed to happen, but these things happen, you know. Car breaking down, losing your house, divorce, whatever. All these things, they happen. And so then sometimes we make ourselves suffer more, though. We get caught up and we think, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? Or we start to think that like somehow our suffering is unique in the world and no one's been through anything this bad before. And that's just not true. And we're asked to open our hearts and realize, oh no, this is everybody. This is everybody. Everybody's dealing with some difficult things. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? What I want to learn how to say, what I'm trying to learn how to say is, right now it's like this, what can I do? Right now it's like this, what can I do? That is equanimity. It is when life's kicking you in the face and you just think, okay, well, what are my next steps? What can I do? And also, I can get through this by reminding myself of two things. One, whatever bad thing's happening is going to pass, because everything passes, right? Everything does. And that's hard because, you know, when we're upset, we sort of kind of hold it in our minds in a way where we think that's going to last forever, but it's not. And then the second thing is, I can remind myself, this probably isn't as big as I think it is. This probably isn't as big as I think it is. And of course, nobody wants to hear that when they're suffering, so it's probably not good advice to say to someone else, but it's something I can say to myself. This probably isn't as big as I think it is. And I also wanted to mention that sometimes when we're talking in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, equanimity has additional connotations of impartiality. That is, not picking and choosing, not getting addicted to preferences. I have a real problem. I'm addicted to preferences. So, for example, when the weather is sort of in between hot and cold, I'm putting on and taking on jackets constantly. I'm taking off my jacket. Okay, I'm comfortable. Okay, I'm cold now. Got to put it back on. It's a real tough time for me. I'm addicted to preferences. But also this applies to people. So in his book, Words of My Perfect Teacher, Petro Rinpoche says, and I quote, "Impartiality means giving up our hatred for enemies and infatuation with friends, and having an even-minded attitude toward all beings, free of attachment to those close to us and aversion for those who are distant." And I don't know about you, but when I read that, that felt kind of weird for me. So I had to sit with it for a minute. The teaching is not, I think, not telling me to stop loving my kids. Or it's also not telling me to have the same feeling for my kids that I have for strangers. Not really. We could take it that way, but I think that's not exactly right. It's not even about letting go of our attitudes. We're probably still going to have preferences. We're probably still going to have people we would rather be around and people we would rather not be around. But we don't have to cling to them also. We don't have to obsess over our preferences. We can like and love and even dislike people without clinging to our feelings. So I want to talk about love without attachment. So if I love you without being attached to you, then I'm invested in your happiness, but I'm not getting concerned with how you can make me happy. That's it. I know I get too caught up sometimes, and I think sometimes we all do, with how people make me feel. And that's love with attachment. Loving how someone makes you feel might not be the same as loving them. If we can love without attachment, that's a really powerful thing. And it's just really, truly wanting the other person to be happy and not getting caught up in how they make you feel. And there's another side to that, of course. When we have aversion towards someone, we're clinging to. It's almost the same, really. We can easily think someone's made up of bad qualities. And nobody's made up of only bad qualities. That's never the case. But that being said, I like to say you can let someone into your heart without letting them into your house. That is, we can be open and understanding and see people that we feel averse toward with clarity, but that doesn't mean letting them walk all over us. Of course it doesn't. It just means not clinging to this feeling we're having. We can sort of hold on loosely, but don't let go, right? That's a song. So opening our hearts means not clinging, and I want to suggest we should open our hearts and not cling so much. So that's it for today. Thank you all. I love you all.
Thank you for listening to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast. Music was provided by Barefoot Brand Music. Please consider supporting the Rime Buddhist Center by making a donation at our website at www.rimecenter.org/donate.